It's the only podcast that broadcasts 438 miles away between Lubbock and College Station. We're a little bit fed up with all this regular news, so instead we'll give you some sports news. You're listening to the fifth quarter A College Sports Podcast. Good morning, everybody. It is September the 18th. Gosh, I can't even remember what day it is. I'm George Coffin. Alongside me is Desmond McLaughlin. Good morning, Desmond.
Good morning, George.
How's your morning going so far?
It's going fantastic. Had an early morning test. Feel like I aced it. How you doing, George?
I'm doing okay. I'll just put it at that. I'm doing okay. So, I think we're going to just jump right into it because there's no other way than to start analyzing and looking back at this week in college football. We had a lot of upsets. We had a lot of big games and some cupcakes too. So let's get into it.
A lot of cupcakes.
Yeah, a lot of cupcakes. So let's start off with the big game. Instead of talking about me first, let's talk about Lubbock and the status in Lubbock. Houston went in, played the Red Raiders on Saturday afternoon. Big shootout. What do you have for us, Desmond?
Well, George, I remember last week we were talking about how we believed Texas Tech would win, but we thought Houston would give them like a hard game, especially since they have Ed Oliver, who's supposed to be a Heisman finalist. And, I'm a man of my word. I would like to apologize to Alan Bowman. I know lately I've been giving him some hard criticism, but speak for the stats. 5 touchdowns, 605 yards, and you also got to take into place that this is a freshman who didn't expect much playing time this year, but came in whenever the starting quarterback went down early in the first game. And I liked what I saw. He's improving. I noticed improvement from last week. The rushing game from Texas Tech did not look very good. I know that he had 111 yards, but I didn't like how effective it was. But
it just didn't seem right.
It didn't seem like it was as strong as it should be. I was talking to one of my friends who's very into Texas Tech sports, part of the team, and he agreed with me. But let me talk about this man, Antoine Wesley, who the whole game, he was just crazy out there. He had 261 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. He was getting the crowd pumped up. I always thought that T.J. Vasher, remember that catch from week 1? I thought he was their primary receiver, but 2 receivers had more yards than him last game, and they didn't really locate him that much because they didn't really need him, and that's good. But it definitely was a toss-up game up until halftime. Both teams were going back and forth, and then towards late in third quarter, Texas Tech started pulling away with it. But from my perspective, the pros were that they got more receivers active. T.J. Vasher wasn't the only one. They kept Ed Oliver at bay. He wasn't as dominant as he has been in past games.
Well, it was because they were triple teaming him. I don't know if you saw that.
Hey, whatever you need to do to stop a man like that, okay? And it worked.
But I mean, credit the Red Raider offensive line too. I mean, it wasn't just Ed Oliver they were stopping. They were stopping the whole D line for the Cougars. And
plus, to throw 605 yards needed a lot of time.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the cons, George. What I saw is that the slant routes killed the defensive backs of Texas Tech. Almost all the touchdowns Houston had were off slant routes. The wide receiver Stevenson had 177 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I guarantee you 150 was in the first half. The first half, they're getting creamed by this guy. Second half, they did really good. They must have adjusted it, seen what I was seeing, and
that's what good coaches do. They adjust and correct what went wrong. So I think it was – I mean, I wasn't watching it completely. In fact, I'll have to admit, I was watching it via the scoreboard at Kyle Field. Watching just the score go back and forth, and we're like, oh my gosh, wait, what? Texas Tech is actually doing something productive here. And then the final score, I was like, wow, I need to go watch the highlights. And I went and watched them, and I was like, this is big.
The game was a lot closer. In the first half, the game was a lot closer. Their special teams was a huge mistake. I don't remember who Texas Tech had as a punt and kick return, but he phoned the ball twice, and one of them was just a careless mistake that you can't have.
I mean, sometimes those happen, but thank God they don't. Sometimes they happen, but they don't affect the whole game, and you're still in the potential for put yourself in there for a win. So, and for me, going back and looking at the highlights, I kind of agree with you. They look good. They won that shootout that Big 12 is always known for. we always forget the Big 12 really doesn't have good defense, and like especially with Texas Tech, they won one of those solid regular games where you could make an argument that U of H was doing everything right. They just weren't going to win the battle
Right.
towards the end of the game. Um, I think it was good to see what Texas Tech has as a second half team. I mean, we know that they can be good. We saw them put up points against Ole Miss, and we saw them put up points against Lamar. And I think against a quality opponent here, I mean, it is Houston, and there was, they destroyed a Arizona team, and they had clobbered I think they played. Gosh, I can't remember who they played. Week 1.
Texas Tech.
Oh no, Rice. Sorry, Houston had clobbered a Rice team. They destroyed an Arizona team. They were going into this game like, okay, well, we're just going to destroy Texas Tech, get 3-0, move on. And Texas Tech's like, no. I still think, looking ahead to this week, your quarterback situation. You said it last week. You were unsure, and you sound like you're coming a little bit more to terms. But I think you can't. Right now, you can't. Texas Tech is not ready to travel to Stillwater, to Oklahoma State. And although they did put up a fight against Houston, Oklahoma State is a different team. And Texas Tech's going to go in there. The defense is going to get burned, like you mentioned, on slant routes, on deep passes. Anything with the pass defense, they're going to get burned. And Oklahoma State's going to win. 45-23 is what I got. Your take on that?
Well, George, I'm going to tell you this before, but I'm actually choosing this one as my upset game of the week, George. Not being biased, but I think Texas Tech has this one. I think they can surprise us.
Wow.
I think I've been doubting them too much, George. They've been surprising me, and I think they'll go to Stillwater and get this W.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised you pick it as your upset watch, but I am surprised a little bit that I don't know. I think it might be closer than the experts think, and I'm going with the experts saying it's going to be large. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's close going into the fourth quarter.
And if Texas Tech does get this win, this would be a big win.
Oh, it would get them back on track, and I mean, I think if they win, it would answer all the questions about bowl eligibility.
Possible top 25, maybe? Question mark?
Question mark. Kingsbury's hot seat. I mean, right now he's off the hot seat, but I mean that's debatable. So, but here in College Station, nobody's on the hot seat yet, and nobody is getting is getting thrown under the bus because ULM came in, and you know what, A&M. I said it last week. I said. Poor ULM is going to come in here. A&M's pissed off that they didn't win against Clemson, and that's exactly what happened. They started off slow, and it was I think it was 14-3 at halftime, maybe more. I can't remember. The scores were really like not back and forth, but they were just kind of after another, and it was fun to be there. Kyle Field was not even completely full. I'd say 75-80% full. But we did get a blocked field goal for a touchdown, which was the first time in since 2014 when Myles Garrett did it against Auburn. But we had too many. I mean, it was good to get back in that win column because 2-1 feels good going into the next big game against Bama. But there were too many penalties called, and we had 4 total touchdowns called back because of penalties. Three passing and 1 rushing, and that just, for me, Aggies ended up scoring on the possessions. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, we scored, they called it back, and we just had to punt or whatever. We did score. I think 2 of those possessions were field goals, though, so you do miss those points. Jimbo wasn't happy. He says, that's something we've got to work on. But it's, it is what it is, and it's time to look ahead to this next 6-game stretch in which we play only one home game, one true home game. We do play in Dallas at AT&T against Arkansas in 2 weeks, but really this is going to be a tough stretch for the Aggies. We've got 3 or 4 away games, and that's against South Carolina, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Alabama. We play Arkansas and Kentucky back in the state of Texas, and then after that we come back home, so that's fine. But I think it's gonna be interesting to see how this team starts to play on the road away from the friendly confines of Kyle Field. I don't think this team is. I hate to hate on my team, but I don't think this team is quite yet ready to compete in the SEC. Before I was feeling the hype. I'm like 10-0, baby, 12-0. Let's do this. And then starting to watch this team now and progress and do things better. Things are going better, but it's not at the caliber that like Auburn and Mississippi State play at. Do you know what I mean? You know how they play at that big standard. I would say right now Jimbo's got a maybe a 5-3 SEC team. Not a 4-4 like someone did the last 3 years, but a 5-3. And that's an improvement, and that's not necessarily what Aggie fans want to hear, but I think it's an improvement, and you just have to keep looking at that. Moving forward, moving ahead, and, going into Alabama this week, it's going to be tough.
It definitely will be.
We finally got ranked. They're number 1. We're 22. I don't think we can keep it close, but I don't think we're gonna win. I'll say that right now.
That's fair.
I've got a 28-27 prediction, but even then, that's a bit
of a stretch, George.
That's a bit stretch, yeah.
Alabama's hot right now.
Okay, ESPN has given us a 9.7% chance. Okay, they gave us a 25% chance against Clemson.
Chance.
And we're a 25.5-point underdog. And Tua Tagovailoa, I can't even say his last name.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
He's threw for like 5 touchdowns, maybe 6 last week.
62-7 win over Ole Miss.
Yeah, like I called it big. I said they were going to win big, and you were doubting me. You said, "Oh, it might be close," but
I thought Ole Miss was giving them a chance, George.
Regardless, I think we'll hold the tide to under 40 points, not 50. But I think it might be 38-7 for all I know, and I hope that's not the case. But moving ahead, keep this conversation going. I feel like the AP voters watched our podcast or listened to it last week because I finally got what I want. I got A&M in the top 25. Of course you did, baby. I got A&M in the top 25. Finally. I don't know if they necessarily should be ranked, and this is just going to add another ranked win for Bama. But you know what? It is what it is. It's nice because it feels that this team is making progress.
George.
Yeah.
I have one question for you that's really on my mind. Why is Clemson still ranked top 3?
Good question. They have destroyed Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern, George.
They found a way to win here in College Station. And who did they play before? I don't know. Like some small. Oh, Furman. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they should be number 3. Maybe number 5, 6. It's a stretch. The problem is they go into ACC play this week, right? Don't they start ACC play?
Not sure. But look.
Oh no, they play. Yeah, I think they go into ACC play this week.
George, their schedule is ridiculous. The only team even remotely close is like Syracuse.
Syracuse is looking good.
Yes, right. But even if Syracuse was ranked, that's only one team, George. Look at the teams like Alabama has to play, or like even Georgia.
No, I see your point, But you know who else is looking good?
Who?
BYU and Boston College. Holy moly. Okay, I have a few things on Boston College. I feel like if I hadn't picked North Texas as my small school, I would have taken Boston College. Strictly because, first off, number one, they're 3-0 for the first time since Matt Ryan was playing at Boston College. That's 11 years ago. Secondly, they could actually start the year 7-0. They played Purdue, Temple, NC State, and Louisville before playing Miami in October, and those are easy wins for them, possibly. I mean, we've seen upsets before, but watch out, Boston College could make a name for himself. And I think in the top 25, we finally saw something, and saw that Texas is, I wouldn't say back, but USC is trending downwards.
If they even deserve to be in top 25 in the first.
Oh, they weren't. No, they were out. They were ranked. I think they were ranked. They were ranked 17 after week 1. They were ranked 22 after losing to Stanford in week 3, and then going into this week, they're unranked. And I think that just says a lot about how much the AP voters just, you keep losing. They're 1-2 right now, but still, that's the 2 losses are big, and Texas isn't really that. I think they're okay, but I don't think they're top 25.
Right.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, Clemson top 3. You know who deserves to be top 3, George? I'm gonna say it this week. I said it week 1 and week 2, George. Oklahoma, George.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's looking good, but hey, they didn't win as big as I thought.
They did. Iowa State gave them a game. They did give them a game.
They gave them a game last year as well, and they actually beat Oklahoma last year. So I think this Oklahoma team, I'm kind of jumping with you, and I think this team could go somewhere. Now they play Baylor this week, I think. No, they play. I'm not exactly sure who they play this week, but I do think that they could go in, and they will. If TCU, we saw TCU on Saturday against Ohio State.
I chose TCU to win. I was wrong.
Okay, they didn't. All these headlines were saying they got dominated. I don't think so. They just ran out of time. They didn't. They had a chance multiple times. A few interceptions kind of cost them here and there, but I don't think that TCU is. I think they still will have a chance in the Big 12. Mind you, it was Ohio State, who's probably going to win the Big 10 by far.
Right.
And but the SEC, again, best conference in the NCAA for a reason.
Right.
4 teams in the top 10. I still think there are some teams that need to be ranked, like Kentucky or Colorado even, and like Michigan State, Oregon, and Miami. They should be unranked. They don't have any big wins. They just keep beating up on little tiny schools. Like, okay, you're expected to do that, but are you expected to lose to like Michigan State? Are you expected to lose to like Arizona State? I don't think so. Or Oregon, are you expected to? Oregon and Miami or Oregon's 3-0.
And that's why I was questioning why Stanford was ranked in the top 10. Yes, Stanford's a good team, but they've also haven't beat anyone of like a good status. USC is okay. St. Diego State, UC Davis. Who even is UC Davis?
They're some small school in California, I guess. But you're right. Yeah, Stanford, and they beat USC. No, they beat San Diego State only because their quarterback finally got some energy drink or something, because Bryce Love had 30 yards rushing in that game, that first game of the season. He didn't look good, and I don't see this hype of why he's going to win the Heisman. I'm sorry.
No. You already know who I think is going to win the Heisman, George.
Well, you know what? Kyler Murray is looking better and better as we keep going.
348 yards, 3 touchdowns, George.
Okay. I see your Oklahoma hype showing. Just remember what school you're going to right
I know,
now.
George. I got to be careful about that.
Yeah, because Boomer Sooner's gonna come kick you where the sun don't shine. Okay, so five big are I guess we're gonna call this segment now five to watch, or the big five is probably a good one, where we're gonna look at 5 games each week like we did last week. I'm gonna put one team on upset watch, and we're just gonna go through these, I guess, somewhat rapid fire, but not too much. First off, I want to say that I almost went perfect in upset watches last week. BYU, I called it. I shocked the world. I know I shocked the world because BYU did shock the world and beat Wisconsin 24-21. I don't think Wisconsin is a top 10 team. I never thought they were. I'm glad they're 18 in this AP poll. They've got to earn that top 10 spot. They didn't. They just looked like they were kind of grinding out wins. If in my opinion, grinding out wins does not mean that you're the top 10. If anything, it just means you're a top 20, top 15, but you're not top 10. So, and BYU is looking nicer and nicer. The schedule is looking promising. I really think they could get top 15 if they really just keep winning. I don't think they're going to beat Washington, though. That might be a good game. They play that in 2 weeks, but we'll see. Now, moving ahead, Washington. Sorry, I've got to back up first. Washington, I owe you an apology. Utah is good. They should have gotten more points because of interceptions or their 4th and goals that they didn't get. But Washington, I feel like I owe the Pac-12 in general an apology. I mean, strictly because I was hating on them. I said they shouldn't have been ranked and anyone should have been ranked in the top 25. But Washington, you're bouncing back after that loss to Auburn, and I think there is potential for you to do pretty well. So here we go. The 5 games we're looking at. Number 14, Mississippi State goes on the road to Kentucky. This is my upset watch. Kentucky is my upset pick. Mississippi State better watch out. Nick Fitzgerald and the Bulldogs better be careful because I think the Wildcats are going to show that they could beat Florida. They could beat all these teams. They're going to compete in the SEC this year. They're not just going to be mediocre. What about you? What do you think?
Well, George, I think Mississippi State will win this game. But yes, I think it'll be close. I can understand why you chose this as your upset watch, but I just think Mississippi State has this game.
Yeah, I'm saying 28-24 Kentucky. So it will be close.
I think it will be a close game.
Yeah. Next one is number 17 TCU heading into Austin to play the Longhorns.
I would love to watch this game.
This game is going to be fun to watch. It's a rivalry game. It's a Big 12 conference game. TCU is going to be looking to bounce back from that Ohio State loss.
And this will tell us if Texas is back on track.
And if they lose, I don't think so. And I think TCU will make a big with like 500 G's, a huge statement. 42-31 TCU.
Okay.
Yourself?
I definitely think TCU will win, but I think it'll be a lot closer. I'm saying 38-35.
Oh, wow, that's close. That's a field goal.
I think it'll be a close game, George. I think since Texas Tech came off that big win last week, TCU is a little bummed out. I think it'll be close.
Okay.
But both teams have a lot to prove this week.
Oh, yes. And I think it will also set up for the Big 12 the Big 12 race, too, to see who really is going to be a contender and who are we saying is a pretender.
Coming from Texas Tech, also in the Big 12, this will be a key game to watch.
Yeah, because you play
all games in Texas, too, baby.
Well, you play both teams.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, moving into the SEC, we've got the classic third Saturday in September game. That's Florida and Tennessee. They're playing in Knoxville this year. I'm saying this is going to be actually one of those Florida-Tennessee games that will be very interesting to watch. It will be close, and but because the Gators have had dominance in this rivalry as of, I guess, 2005, really, they will sneak out of Knoxville, get a win, 27-21 UF, and that's on the last second touchdown, just like last year.
Okay, George. Yeah, I agree. Florida will win this game. I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be like last second, as you say, but I definitely think it'll be a close game. But I definitely see Florida winning this game.
Number 4, we've got the second-ranked team in the nation, Georgia, at Missouri. For some reason, Missouri is unranked. They're 3-0. They beat Purdue by 3.
No, George. No, George. George.
No?
This is not even a game, George. Georgia's gonna blow them out of the water.
I was going to say this was going to be my second upset watch.
No, George. Don't say it, George.
But I think it will be a game to closely watch because, like Desmond, you're saying, I think people are going to overestimate, they're going to underestimate what Mizzou's going to bring. It's a home game for Mizzou, okay? Number 2, SEC East. You never know what's going to happen in the SEC East. And number 3, if Georgia wins, okay, yes, then they beat a fairly decent team. I think Georgia will win, but don't be surprised if you see something strange or peculiar.
We will see, George. I'm calling a blowout.
I've got 34-21 Georgia.
I'm calling like 56-14 George.
Oh, gosh. Okay, and you're saying that Justin Fields is going to get in and play then, their backup? He's going to get some action?
Yes, George.
And our final game of this 5 to watch is the College Game Day game.
Questionable choice of why this is the College Game Day game.
Yeah, I think we're both saying that. Number 7, Stanford at number 20, Oregon in Eugene. First Pac-12 conference game for each opponent. Sorry, for Oregon, not for Stanford. Stanford played USC. College Game Day is going there for that top 20 ranked matchup.
Right.
It obviously means something because they didn't just choose some random BS school, like going to some small, tiny FCS college. They obviously wanted to go to a big game of the week. I think Stanford's going to win, but only by a touchdown. I think these 5 games that I picked are all close, and I don't understand why you think there's going to be a lot of blowouts here.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a lot of blowouts, but definitely the Georgia-Missouri game, I think definitely Georgia will be a blowout. But I agree with you on this one, but I actually have Oregon winning this game. Both teams, one's ranked top 10, other ranked top 20, but both teams really haven't played anyone with like a good ranking so far this year, so you don't know. But I agree, definitely close, but I actually have Oregon winning this game.
Wow. Big statement. I think one word that describes this last week is called upset. Okay. Big Ten, half the Big Ten, actually more than half, 7 of the Big Ten teams lost on Saturday. It's the first time that's happened since the AP poll debuted in 1936. There were also 8 upsets, including some of those that Power 5 team, so that's ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, and Pac-12, that they all lost to a Group of 5 opponent. And that's Troy over Nebraska, Temple over Maryland, BYU defeating Wisconsin, Akron, the Zips, beating Northwestern, South Florida beating Illinois, which really isn't an upset. It's just, whatever. Illinois, that's not a big surprise in my opinion. San Diego State over Arizona State, Fresno State beating UCLA, and you know what the last one is?
What is it, George?
It's that nice punt return, and where he duped out the defenders. That would be North Texas beating Arkansas by like 38.
I bet you were pumped about that game, George. I remember you called it last week.
I called it. I said, what was my exact words? I said that Arkansas did lose to Colorado State by allowing 28 unanswered, so don't be surprised if the Mean Green are going to run you over. Instead of running Arkansas over, they had like 600 yards of passing offense, something like that. It was crazy. In fact, if we're going to talk about this for a second, number one, for all you guys that are going to be looking at on Facebook or on YouTube at our header photo, I do not have the North Texas shirt. Has not come in the mail yet, so that bet is still on. Okay, I'm a word of my, I stay true to my word, and I'm gonna up the ante. I'm not just gonna wear it for a podcast. So for next week's podcast, I'm going to wear it to the next Fighting Texas Aggie football home game.
Oh, George.
So that's against Kentucky.
George.
They're throwing it back to 1998, okay? And I'd love to wear my Aggie throwback jersey. And you know what? I probably will by throwing that on top of the North Texas shirt. But I will wear it, and I will be rooting for the Mean Green that weekend and for the next few weeks. Because right now they're 3-0 for the first time since George Bush, not W, George Bush, the first one, was in his presidency. That's 1989, if you can't remember. They are trying to go 4-0 for the first time since 1966. Their best start is 8-0 in 1977. They've scored in every quarter that they've played. Okay, let's put that in perspective. Both Texas Tech and A&M and Alabama and LSU, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Stanford, Notre Dame, Auburn, and Washington. So besides the two teams I just named, or besides our two schools, that's the whole top 10. Every team has scored in like 10 or 11 quarters. They've missed 1 or 2 quarters.
Right.
Okay. North Texas has done something that the top 10 has not. Just put that in perspective there. And they've outscored opponents 148-56. Now, mind you, they played SMU, Incarnate Word, and Arkansas. Now, SMU and Arkansas, those are big wins. But Incarnate Word, that one's expected. There's a reason why they're not ranked yet. But if they do get the win this week against, I believe they're playing Liberty in Virginia, they won't be ranked, but they'll be 4-0. I'll be still here on that Mean Green bandwagon. I've got to make it up to Denton for a game. I need to start, asking around, tell them, how big of a Mean Green fan I am now. Because, quite frankly, I mean, your school, Arizona State, the one you picked, what's going on there? They took an upset, a bad upset.
I was wrong, George. Maybe it's a little too early to say. I know you kind of doubted me a little bit when I said
I did.
Arizona
I said
State.
Herm Edwards. Excuse me. That was my exact words. Too,
no, those were your exact words, George. I can't deny it. But I'm gonna still stick with them. They play Washington next week. Definitely a hard game, but we will see. I don't want to switch right now. Maybe he can surprise me. Maybe I was right all along. One bad week, you can never tell.
That's true. I mean, that's a very good point. I still think North Texas is going to the Conference USA.
But yes, you're right. North Texas is definitely playing out there.
And you know what? Considering how UCF and how Boise State lost, remember how I said I need Boise State to lose, and seeing at really who the Group of 5 teams are, UCF is looking like really the only contender. I really think North Texas could come out here and represent the Group of 5 in the New Year Six. I've said it before and I've said it again. I think they are a strong team. They're strong defensively, offensively. Their special teams is really good. They have 9 interceptions this year in 3 games. Okay, they had 6 against Arkansas, and those are 3. Yeah, those are 3 quarterbacks. That's 3, not just 1. Or 2. That's 3 quarterbacks that they put in, and they all threw at least 2 picks against. First quarterback threw 4, starting through 4, and then the last 2 threw 1 each, and there was a pick 6. So North Texas has a dominant defense. I'm not worried about that. It's worried about how many points they can put up, and they put up 47 against Arkansas. I'm not. That can be anybody in the in Conference USA.
Oh.
Louisiana Tech, UTSA, Rice, UTEP. That can be literally anybody in the Conference USA. And so I think if they can get more and more points, domination is ahead, and Fiesta Bowl or Peach Bowl or whatever they send us, here we come. Because, yeah, so go Mean Green. And don't forget, everybody, unless, Desmond, you have anything else to add.
No, George, you got it.
We are on Twitter and Instagram. That's right. Social media is up now. We are at the 5Q Podcast. I'll say that again. It's at the 5Q Podcast on Twitter and Insta. And if social media is not your thing, you can always send us an email at the5qpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see what we can do to do suggestions. And I believe, I'll have to clarify this, but I believe coming soon in October or so, we might be starting to do some guest appearances. So if you are interested in being a guest on our podcast for a few minutes or so, give us an email. We'd love to have a guest on our show and talk about college sports. But from now, signing off with the fifth quarter, I'm George Koff for my colleague Desmond McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Adios, and Gig 'em Aggies.
Wreck 'em Tech.